There's a house salad, Greek salad. Do you want a milkshake? No, not really. You don't want French fries? You don't want a veggie burger? No. Okay. Do you know what you do want? I want. I want sushi now. I don't want sushi. Yeah, that nobody's eating sushi for a while. So, if you want to order from anywhere, you have to let me know because all the places are going to close.
Well, let's order ours from there.
I already did.
Okay. Well, what do you want to order in?
I
Pick
already placed
a meal.
Look at me. I already placed our order from that other place because I knew you didn't want anything from there. But all of the stores kind of close early now. So you have to tell me what you want if you want to order in. It'd be hilarious if like Lola somehow got your mom's jeans and like had a crazy growth spurt and like was taller than both of us. Terry, are you taller than your mom? Or is she taller than you?
I'm just an inch taller than her.
You're an inch taller?
Mm-hmm.
How is Ryan so damn tall?
And blonde.
He must have gotten all Papa. Because he was tall, right? He's like a big dude. take you so far. I can't believe you didn't run back and look for the.
I saw Henry and
What?
I saw Henry and Sam today. They ordered a ton of wine for the bar.
Oh, and you delivered it?
Mm-hmm.
That's fun.
They were working out on their front porch together.
What?
They're both working out on their front porch together.
That's fun. It looks like there's an invisible person sitting at this desk, reading a book and drinking coffee.
Ah! I have a scanner for you. Nice. Where was that? A scanner?
Can I get it in a minute?
Yeah.
A scanner?
Like a brand new scanner.
Oh, yeah.
It's like that.
Yeah.
I know, right? Now you can scan your art.
Now we have Soda Street.
We have stuff for that too.
Yeah.
Like a that thing.
Yeah, but yours is broken.
But we have the thing.
Yeah. But it's
Who's on
broken.
first? No, ours is broken, but we have the CO2.
Oh, excellent.
Is Andrew there?
And then you went to the corner.
Bodega?
Yeah.
I got really expensive beer.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
You don't like it. It's like really strong IPA.
I got, well, we drinking the citrus ones. I'm gonna go up and be on my own.
I'm in it. I don't know if it's.
So Stacey's recording it.
I know that.
As soon as you get into the thing, she's recording it. So she's recording this one right now. Hello,
It
Stacey.
looks like I'm the only person.
You are. You're the only person there right now.
Okay.
But it's still being recorded. We're gonna be there at 7:45.
Oh,
We
I
had-
thought it was at 7:30.
No.
Let me plug this in so it doesn't matter.
No, we had a so that's 2 storytellers
No, I know.
that are actually gonna tell stories. So first,
There's somebody that just signed up to.
yeah, they should I get a start with Yeah, I know so too.
I told him to like leave it on the stoop.
Hi. Hey, Mon. Monica? Can you hear me? Monica, can you hear me? Monica? Can you hear me? No, I should. Look at Monica.
Monica? I don't think you can hear her. She probably can't.
But I have it on unmuted.
Maybe it's trying to connect to it.
You want a beer?
Sure.
So we did triple IPS. I don't know anything here, so I'm just gonna get stupid. I'm ready to be. Okay. I know. Monica, can you hear me? Monica, is your thing muted? Hello? Can you hear me? Will you log into this too, just in case my phone dies? Mine's dying. Here, I'll let you do the honors. No, it's I can just send it. Hey, I can hear you. Monica, I can hear you. Yeah, I'll send it to you right now. She's typing and I can hear her. Meeting.
And delivering wine.
Made $180 today.
Pretty good.
It's no house. It's making ends meet.
You're off the books, right?
Yeah, I'm off the books. All right, I just texted it to you. Zoom. Wow, look at that sky.
It's beautiful. Never spent some time.
How do you turn on your front light? Is that a thing? They should make that with Zoom. Monica, can you hear me? I'm not muted. Will you put it on so I can hear you? This is like it's like drinking whiskey. It's a triple. Let's see what it says. Oh no, she's
Okay.
gone.
I can hear you, Terrence. I think maybe Monica's sound wasn't working. Say something again.
Hello.
There you go.
Make that guy.
It's being shot!
Echo.
All right.
Monica's gone now. You're not there though. No, come back. I'll mute myself. I just come into the thing. Monica? I'll mute.
Hi, Terrence.
Hello.
Are you sitting in a closet? It's
I'm
so
sitting
dark.
I'm sitting on the front porch with Andrew.
Ah, okay.
I can't see Monica though. Can you see Monica?
I don't see Monica.
She's in the
Is
meeting.
Monica here?
She is.
Oh, hi, Monica. But I don't see you.
Hey, Stacie.
Oh, there
Sorry,
she
I was
is.
Hi, Monica.
I was on here but didn't look at the screen. And don't have the sound on.
So good.
All right, I'm getting there.
Hello, Monica. She's here now.
Yes,
She's
sorry.
here,
I was
she's
I checked in before and there was nobody there, and then I was like browsing the internet.
Yeah, I figured opening, 10 minutes before time was good. Although there were people who logged in the middle of the day today, which is interesting, but strange.
Oh, you can't hear this though.
No.
Here, I'll unplug. Okay, I had to unplug my ears so Andrew could hear the stories too.
Hey, Andrew.
Oh, damn.
It's really dark in your place, Terrence. What's going on
I
there?
know.
No, it's terrible. How do you make it on speaker?
Huh? I mean, I see that you're there.
I think you just have to turn your sound up. Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Problem when it's so dark, you see my screen being really dirty. So thank you also, Stacie, for answering all these posts on Facebook, the comments.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was surprised to see people had left them, so I'm glad I checked the page.
I know.
So I hope they both come tonight. We'll see.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, Julia's iPad.
Hi, Julia. You know what's nice about this is that I don't even have to leave my house.
It's true.
I have to set up chairs. No record player. Oh, where's the music? I thought you guys promised music.
I don't think I promised music, but I can provide some. Hold on, I'm going to cut my sound for a second.
There's a way to like select the song.
Cheers. I got myself a drink. That's okay.
I will. Does it drive you crazy? What happened to my...
You get like 5
Hey, look, Charlotte's here.
It's supposed to be good for the
Hi, Charlotte.
Hey.
Hello.
Hello.
I just have look.
Oh,
Okay,
Julia,
Terrence, there, have some music.
here comes the music.
Yeah, how do you put
Nice.
So if you go to Zoom, go to
There's a
the
person's neck.
video.
Yeah,
Charlotte, we can't see your face. We can just see your
It's a very
throat.
nice neck.
video settings.
What is the beautiful?
Pages to display.
You have a wonderful neck, whoever you are.
Charlotte, we can't see your face. We just see your throat and your really lovely cow. Like, there you are.
She has a great neck.
We're trying to get the camera off the big screen to work, but
There you are.
Mirror my video. Click that off, I think. And then try. No. Huh.
it may be.
No, you should have a selection for the display. Let's plug all the way in. Because you see
Nice,
it.
Stacie.
Hi.
Yeah, and I'm not sure.
You can't get it to go on the big computer, on the big screen.
That's okay. We can see you just fine.
Now you can see me.
Well, now we can see you.
Peekaboo!
I did this earlier on a work conference call. I thought I was on the display, and I moved my this thing, and I pointed it right at my crotch, and everybody was like, "Whoa!"
Wow, you can see me.
I mean, we've been together for 17 years.
And you can see Owen. And you can see Owen. Stacie, this is Owen.
Hi, Owen.
Hello. Hello, Owen.
Hello.
Hello. Hi, Monica.
Only like
Morning.
Hello.
The other head appears.
Yo, parasite.
All right. Well, if somebody says drives you crazy. You're, but nobody else is muted.
The biggest thing is I keep the one that I lost because I'm hitting things when I think the flag.
Hey, Stacie.
Yes.
If my phone picks up all this ambient noise because we're outside, you're welcome to mute me.
But
Okay.
Terrence, you look so dark.
We're
I mean,
sitting on the.
all
We're
the way
sitting
He's
on,
outside.
Is that the idea?
we're drinking beers on the stoop.
Oh, I see.
So you're in France.
Cheers.
Yeah, we're in our pajamas.
You've never gotten out of your pajamas?
We're waiting for the delivery guy to show up. It's a very Brooklyn moment.
We're the only one.
Well, we wait for delivery guys to show up here upstate. But
Hey, Christina.
wait.
Hi, Christina.
I don't want to see these.
And whoever SFIMETI is, hello to you too.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hi, Pim and
Hi,
Girl.
Christina.
I put on lipstick. I'm so
I
excited.
know, so did I.
Hey, you're upstairs from us.
Yeah.
Oh, look, that's my front porch.
Yes, this is your. Cheers
So
to
that's
you.
Terrence and Andrew on the front
that's how
porch
that
there.
wall looks from the camera vantage point.
Charlotte, how you doing? Monica?
Christina, your hair changed.
Cheers. I
It
don't-
did. It did. I'm one of like 6 people that I know that bleached the fuck out of their hair.
Maybe that's what I should do. I can't get to my
Oh my god,
hair.
it's so much fun. It is so much fun. I just got beer on my computer screen. That's a hazard you don't normally have to deal with. All right. So I better finish writing my bio, hadn't I?
I just lost all that.
Yes, I sent you a bio, didn't I?
You certainly did. How
Oh,
are
I
you
did.
guys?
Good. Okay.
What's going on?
That just shows.
Who's Fismetti?
Yeah, but I want it.
I don't know. That's our mystery guest for now.
I'm gonna say hello to Fismetti in a chat.
Hey, it's
Oh, I
Francesco.
need to do.
It was like,
I have to remove my
Hey,
tape.
Francesco. Oh my
There
God.
it goes.
Should we see you too?
about how you're showing.
I'm not really versed with this. Hold on.
You're gonna like the whole series on something.
Yeah, I would love to see you. I haven't seen you in a while.
You don't think that you guys
Successful.
will
There you go.
Hi.
Hello.
Nah,
Hello.
good.
Yes.
Somewhere here, but
Oh,
they're just here in words.
I have to.
For a lot of reasons.
Neither of you would have done that. Anyways, I don't want to talk about it.
So you can just unplug if you want to just look at the screen.
Yeah,
Like,
well,
How are you doing, Francesco?
when they're
Yeah.
telling me.
You know, hanging in there, I guess. How about you?
Yeah, hanging in there. Hanging in there.
Well, because
Everybody safe back home in Austria?
we're with
Well, yeah, we are in Long Island actually.
Oh, okay. No, but I'm saying in Austria. Your family there.
Yeah, Austria is also kind of a little crazy, but I mean, they have their, like, you know, where they are right now, I guess. They are,
Monica,
I just talked to them today. They're in quarantine. They have to be there. My parents are not allowed to leave the house because they were skiing resort.
Mm.
So they have to be stay in the house for another few days. They already did
Monica,
12 days or something.
can you guys hear me? Hey, Monica.
Yes. Yes, Terrence, what's up?
Oops, the phone dropped.
out of that mug.
What is it? He demands attention and then his phone is gone.
No, no, it's
I know, it just happened.
It fell
Are you
down.
looking at your neck? What is that?
It fell down the stairs.
Oh no!
That's the front of my house and I don't even know what we're looking at. Oh, Stacie, your necklace is beautiful.
Thank you.
This is the weirdest.
Hi, Jess. Welcome.
Hi, Jess.
Jess, we don't show you as having any sound.
Maybe she's being polite with a mute.
No, but usually it will show a muted microphone, but I don't see any microphone.
Andrew was trying to teach me Zoom etiquette.
He's just not listening. No. Trying to pretty woman him for Zoom, but no.
Oh, hey Monica, Long Island is like another country now that they've blown up the bridges.
What have they done? What have they done? Say it again.
They blew up the bridges last week.
I'm sorry, I believe that's from a Billy Joel song. That will not be happening right now.
That's your dad joke for the night, you guys.
No, get out of here. I need all the dad jokes.
Oh wait, we lost Jess. Maybe she went to go get a microphone. Let's hope she comes back.
Maybe Jess went down to the Radio Shack to purchase a microphone.
That's okay.
That's essential, right? Essential business.
Stacie, I keep looking at the picture of you on my screen and being like, all right, now now we're making eye contact, but that's not how this works at all. I have the notes for the Wild Unknown up, so I can read them.
Oh, excellent.
Just letting you know.
That's great.
Trusty iPad.
And I have your bio, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna turn off this music because.
Are you guys hitting that horn?
Hi, Gert.
Yeah.
Are we what?
Are you getting that
Hello.
horn? The air raid siren?
Anything. I hear a dog.
Oh. Hey, there's a
Yeah,
neck.
that's Sophie, that's her dog.
Yes, I figured it was Sophie.
Whose dog?
Oh,
Hi,
here.
Gert. I haven't seen you in so long.
That's right. Here she is.
Oh, Yosemite the dog. Sweet bear. I love her. I wish everybody
she's adorable.
did Zoom all the time because then we get to meet everybody's pets. And also
We got
their
another
children,
person
but
just
mostly their
joined.
pets.
Welcome, Ray. Sorry,
Hi.
I didn't mean to over.
Oh, Raven, hi.
Hello, Ray.
How are you? Oh, but you're not showing up with a microphone either, honey. Sorry, I'm not just calling random people honey. Raven is my friend.
Stacey's
Know that person.
the Zoom cop.
I mean, I do call random people honey, but not in crowds.
You can call me honey whenever you like, but only you.
Can you see the
No one else
sky?
is allowed
Look
honey.
how beautiful the sky is.
That is
The
very
sky
gorgeous.
does look beautiful.
I know.
The little bit of it that I can see.
That little bit of sky is, my gift to Halibut Fire tonight. That and my front window. That'll have a cat in it momentarily.
It's actually very well set up cinematographically.
Yes,
Yeah, sweet
you
conjugation.
nailed that.
Cinematographically. It's not a word, is it? That's not a
I
word.
hope it is. Hello. Oh, that was a second. Hello.
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 Hi.
Hello.
Yes, now we have a microphone for you. Yes. Hi.
I've never used Zoom before, so I'm trying to figure this out.
You are so fine. Take a minute. You have got some space.
Now you're not frozen and you have a microphone. Yay.
Yay.
And here's
Hey,
Shiva.
Stacie.
Yay.
Hi, Shuba.
Hi, Shiva.
Hi, Ray. Shuba.
More.
The virtual background's fun.
Raise hand. Meeting settings.
Settings.
So
That's better.
everybody's going to be really patient and very lovely to each other as we work out how all of this works
Yeah.
in this new medium, because I don't know what's going on and I'm supposed to be hosting this thing. So be patient. We're going to be great. It's going to be fine.
Yes, we'll all figure it out. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Stacie knows
Good
what
to
she's
go.
doing though. So
Not really, but But, you
We
know,
go a
sometimes
wish
I
and a
act
punch
like
of
I
pixie
do.
dust and we'll be fine.
Well,
We've
I
got
did put on some
folks-
glitter tonight, so maybe
Yeah.
that will
Me
do the trick.
too. You can't see it because I'm all washed out, but
Change your background.
yay.
Virtual background.
Okay.
Well, that's-
So Jess hasn't come back. I hope she comes back.
Let's wait for a bit. We've got some
Still
time.
searching for that microphone.
Oh, I had a piece.
Grab a drink.
Hey
Have a
guys.
drink. Let's raise our glass. Sparkling water, red wine, beer, champagne, apple juice, whatever you've got.
Guys,
Cheers.
Right.
guys, we're calling in from San Francisco, so
You know, I tried to do the virtual background thing in a meeting that I had the other day, and it left the background into the
That's
virtual
your friend
background.
Kurt.
So my whole face was the cosmos, but then there was
That's
still a white wall
Sophie.
behind me. It just didn't work at all.
You're Sophie.
You know what, Stacey? I love your face being the cosmos because that makes sense.
I could do my
You
photos.
contain the cosmos.
These aren't even my photos.
You can chat with Pim and Kurt.
It's very interesting because we can see part of your building, Terrence, and we can see part of the Golden Gate Bridge. So it's like you're existing in two worlds at the same time.
Oh,
It's
I'm
okay.
sorry.
Yeah. Okay, I don't know what that is.
Oh, yeah, no, that's. So, how many people does everybody know that have like fucked with their hair since this thing has happened? Because I bleached mine. This was like beautiful and brown and lush, and now it's like this. I know people who've cut all their hair off. I know people who've bleached it, like the whole shebang. We are getting bored and weird in here.
Maybe that'll be my next thing, is just to shave my head.
Yes!
Oh, God.
You got wonderful hair.
Don't you dare.
We'll discover once and for all whether or not I have a perfectly round head.
Hello, Michelle. Welcome,
Hi,
Michelle.
Michelle. Hi, Jess. Hi.
I anticipate a couple of folks joining from across the sea.
It's nice to see you. Well, not see you, but have you be in the space with your name on the screen.
We look like we're in a hip hop video from the 80s. Yo, I'm going to bring Andrew in for this next verse.
Uptown got you.
Hey, Ricky!
Okay.
Yay, this is nice.
Ricky
You guys
and
look-
Jess, we're still showing you as not having microphones. Which is
He's a
okay
cop.
if you only want to listen, but we'd love to hear you too. Okay, Ricky, now you have
Hey,
a microphone.
Ricky, you talking? How you doing?
Hey, I am very okay.
That's so fine. I
I feel like
love
there's a
that
story
answer.
behind that okay.
Oh, yeah. I see through you. I see through you, Stacie. Who's here?
Oh,
A
all the
whole
folks.
bunch of people.
We
Hi,
have
Andrew.
everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Hello.
Oh, Jess, you have a
Andrew.
microphone now. Yay.
I do.
Yay!
It's been-
Hi, Jess.
I'm having technical difficulties today, but it's so nice to see you all.
You are so fine.
Okay. I will admit that I was secretly hoping that my mom was going to log in, but she's not
Okay.
here,
So
so maybe she'll come later.
We're waiting for
All right.
two moms right now. My mom is
They will
busy
be the
putting
surprise
pants on.
guests as we go along.
It's
It would be
okay.
cool if
She
your
might
mom
take
came
a-
too.
Who? What?
It would be cool if your mom came too.
Yeah, well, she's coming from Australia, so it might take a while for her to get here. You know, it's far away. But I believe there's a whole crew of folks coming down from the land of Oz, which is going to be pretty cool. I was really excited because normally this event is so localized, like it's in Brooklyn, you know, like people from New York go to Open Source Gallery, but now I have the opportunity to invite everyone I know from across the world. And so I did. We're like, all right, it's 5 o'clock on the West Coast. It's 11, you know, it's brunch time Saturday in Australia. Like, Come on, storytelling, come over.
That would be cool. Soon our gallery view is going to just be like little tiny images. We'll have so many international guests.
Yep, and together our faces will meld into an image of the Statue of Liberty, right?
I like the idea of that.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so we've got a bunch of people. Maybe we should get started soon. I mean, we've never started this close to on time in the entire time we've hosted, so I don't really know why we would do that tonight. So maybe we could wait another few minutes to see who else is gonna stroll in.
Let's give it like a hard start of about 8:10. So there's a couple of minutes if you need to go to the bathroom or you want to get a drink or anything like that, and then come back and we'll start introductions and stuff with a hard start at 8:10. What do you reckon about that? That's reasonably good.
That sounds good to me.
Woo-hoo! It
gives me time to text my mom and say, where are you?
Mom, are you gonna turn up this time?
Don't stand me up, Mom.
So Monica, you're in Long Island?
Yes.
Wow.
I gotta say, I got really freaked out because my kids don't get it, that they have to, maybe not socialize. And
yeah.
So I was like, I gotta go.
Yeah, you gotta like actually physically put a bubble around them.
I know, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, we've got a few more people. Hi, Shauna. Hi, Jessie. Shauna, it's so nice to see you. And Vinay, for now we can see you too.
Yay! Hi.
Hey.
Hello. Hey, Shauna, how's Colorado?
Good. How are all you
you,
New Yorkers faring now?
Surviving.
What cabin fever? Who said what?
I was telling Christina earlier that I think the management company for my apartment building is afraid that we're all gonna go crazy and kill each other. And the other day they sent us like a 5-page email of activities we can do in our homes. I was like, wow, somebody put some serious time into this. It's literally like page after page for your pets, for your kids, like all the different things you can spend your time on. It's like, okay, I promise not to, have a here's Johnny moment.
I have a feeling there's got to be a lot of like really excellent horror films made, like written during this time. Like people like, what can I do to my family? How about that neighbor who keeps listening to dubstep all day, every day?
Hey guys, we're putting an order if anybody wants food. Andrew's getting broke. I'm getting burgers. So if you just call out your orders.
I don't really think that will work for me. I mean, you could run it up the street to my house, but then I would be here and I couldn't let you in. So
give us an address. I mean, come on. How about that?
Come on, what are you getting? I'm hungry.
I want some
wait.
Christina,
don't worry.
Wait,
I
we
don't know
lost
what
Daniel.
All right. Well, it is 8:10. We did say we were going to start.
I'm waiting for Daniel to come back to his chair and hoping
have a
that
crying
maybe he will
baby.
bring his beautiful baby with him.
He is a crying baby.
By the way,
Daniel won't be back anytime soon.
I'm also a crying baby, like a large percentage of the time. So don't worry.
I'm the host next season, by the way, just real quick announcement. And it's the first time we're going to do cats.
Oh,
I'm sorry, what's
why am I
happening?
not there for this?
New hosts next season. Cats. Ta-da!
It's a very cute cat.
Don't say
Actually,
that.
super cute.
But it's true.
She's freaking
lovely.
crazy though.
She's smart.
Crazy.
You know what? She has a really great personality. So.
So hello, Swift Folder. I don't know your actual name, but hello.
I'm a little. Oh, that works for you now. You got the multiples. All you gotta do is.
Okay. Should we?
Okay. Yeah, let's get started.
Start chatting away. We are so close to on time, man. This is nuts.
I know, it's shocking.
It's
Like the
closer
last
to on
couple of
time
months,
than-
we've been pretty bad. So this is good. This makes up for that.
Atrocious. Atrocious. So, welcome. Hi. Let's have a wave. Like, mwah, mwah, mwah. I'm going to blow you some kisses. Mwah, mwah. I'm Christina. And Stacie. I keep pointing this way because Stacie's like right next to me on my gallery view. And I'm just going to keep centering myself on my screen. So don't mind my gestures. We are the hosts of How to Build a Fire. Yay! Yay! Round of applause. This is our first time doing this, so be kind to us. We'll be very kind to you, as long as you're kind to us. You know, that's how it goes.
Yes. We're just like the president. It's all about quid pro quo.
Oh.
Oh, God.
Oh, don't call me
I
that.
couldn't resist. She left the door wide open. What was I supposed to do?
Honey, my door's always open for you. My door, everything. On that note, I am going to introduce the glorious Stacie Evans. Probably not there for you, but wherever you are, let's like give a round of applause to Stacie Evans.
Now we really look like the intro to the Brady Bunch. It's very exciting to see all these little tiny squares. Go ahead, Christina.
All right. So Stacie had no idea when she and I were brainstorming themes for spring that calling for the wild unknown for March was really asking the universe to deliver us into the twilight zone. But here we are in all our socially distant places, all in the same place. Sometimes even when the universe is kicking your ass, it also gives you glittering gifts. Welcome to our room, everybody. And that was from Stacie.
Welcome, everybody.
Yay, welcome.
And now I am going to introduce you to the lovely and talented, I don't even know where to point. That way, maybe. Christina. Okay. Christina is a Brooklyn-based artist and educator. She loves building stories with different people, different materials. She's particularly excited to use all of her newfound time to learn the banjo, how to read tarot, and to make some excellent art. Everybody, Christina Marks.
Oh man, there's just nothing like real applause, is there? So you guys are all clocked into our lovely meeting room, and this is How to Build a Fire, which I'm going to tell you a little bit about. So I'm going to let you know what the kind of run of the night is going to be. We'll have a little bit of a preamble and introduction to what the event is, a little bit of an introduction to the space that we're normally in, but we'll talk about perhaps what's going on with Open Source Gallery, which is our host place. We'll talk a little bit about our theme, have a few beautiful stories, one from Shuka and one from Ray, if you can spot them on the gallery. And then we're going to open it up to everybody if you want to tell a short story. So our invited storytellers are going to tell a story of about 15 minutes length. They've prepared something. It's something that they've been prepping for since the before times, in the years before isolation. And then if you want to tell a story that's like 5 minutes long, chime in.
Oh, wow, it does sound good.
And yeah, then we'll have some general chat. So that's how that's gonna go.
Hey, really quickly, Christina, can I ask a question?
Sure.
The recording, the two storytellers that are talking, can we turn off recording if they want us to turn off recording?
Yeah, we can turn off recording, yes.
Okay.
But it's on right now.
Dun, dun,
we can definitely turn it off.
Stacie, do you want to talk a little bit about like etiquette in the space?
Sure. So when we do this in person, there's always a lot of sound, there's laughter, there's chatting. It's a little harder to do that in a space like this. So if it's really noisy where you are, like if you're out on the street and cars are honking, please mute yourself so that we can hear the storytellers. But don't mute yourself just out of hand, because sometimes it's nice for the storyteller to hear if you're having a reaction. So if it's quiet where you are, maybe don't mute yourself, because we want to hear if you're laughing. We want to hear if you're like gasping in surprise or whatever. So yes, like that. So just try to remember that whatever sound is happening in your place, we can hear it too. So if it's, like it's possible that in a few minutes, my cats will start the death match, as they often do. And I will have to mute myself because no one needs to hear that. But that's just a thing we ask you to pay attention to. And when people are telling their stories, we also ask if it might be a good idea. But we can't hear your baby crying, Shiba. Oh, because you're muted. Yeah, got it. But if when people are telling stories, you want to not see the Brady Bunch view, just click at the top of the screen where it says speaker view, and you'll just get to see that person highlighted, and everybody else will just be small.
It's the top right-hand side of the top right-hand side of the
so
screen.
it says
just
speaker
underneath
view,
the,
and then it's just going to show one person in a really giant picture and everybody else really small. I think those are all my Zoom etiquette things. Oh, and there is also a chat box if you want to send a note to everybody or to one person in particular in the chat. You can do that.
Yeah, you can have personal messages in there as well. So if somebody says something that's really interesting to you, or if you're like, oh, whoa, that reminds me of this thing you might be interested in the same way that at halftime we'd have a break, like we might have some space in there. So just like send them a message and be like, hey, you definitely reminded me of this thing. Let me share it with you, in the same way that you'd pull someone aside in a regular space.
Yes. Cool. So, Terrence, I don't know what's happening with your image. It's very freaky.
What do you mean? What are you talking about? It says
I'm talking about how you appear as just a head. It's very strange.
It says I sanitize New York. Look.
No,
That's
it's
what
not.
it is. And then if you want,
what's behind you that's weird. It's how you're showing up that's weird.
If you want to see my rap video, Andrew comes in when he's got the backup vocals. Ready? Watch. Boom. Wait. You got it. Other side. That side over there. Wait.
It's not weird.
Yeah.
All right. So while the glorious duo sitting on my front porch sanitizing New York continue to figure out their next video.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm going to talk a little bit
the guy
about
with the I Sanitize New York background, Terrence, is actually the man who started How to Build a Fire 6 years ago.
Yeah.
This was his brainchild. Terrence is, in addition to oddly represented in these images, he's a poet and is a really big fan of community building and bringing people together to talk and to tell stories. And that was how to Build a Fire was born. And every year he chooses a new pair of hosts and we bring in people to tell stories. And this year the hosts are me and Christina.
And me.
Is that better?
So much better.
Not really, but okay.
So the space that we normally hold this event is run by Monica. You can find her on the screen, Monica Wera. And it's an amazing gallery space called Open Source. Most of the folks that I'm seeing here present are familiar with it, but it's a beautiful gallery with lots of different stuff going on. The exhibition that we were in is by a bunch of people called Boyd and Co. Totally still worth looking up. You can find information about them on the Open Source website. It's a really interesting exhibition where you got to go and make waffles out of weird shit. And I'm down for that. So down for that. So amongst interesting culinary escapades, Open Source has really amazing programming year-round, as well as a bunch of education projects and a whole lot of really cool summer camps and things like that. But Monica, do you want to talk about how Open Source is functioning as this whole shebang pans out, just briefly?
Yeah, I was just actually texting with Shauna since we have this opportunity that Shauna can do. I thought that she could do it.
Ah, okay.
Might be a little rusty.
Shauna.
So
yes, Shauna's going to talk about it.
just a regular introduction. Open Source is a nonprofit arts organization. We have regular exhibitions, events like the storytelling series. We have an artist lecture series, an amazing kids program, none of which are open right now, so I'm not really sure what to talk about.
But you know, this is running, so I can't imagine that much else is far behind.
So this is still running. We are still planning to do our artist talk series, probably also on Zoom or on live stream. And we have a few other programs in the works right now. They're not totally finalized, but we're working on them currently. So you should see those soon. So follow us on social media, check our website, join our mailing list. And our kids program is still running in some capacity virtually. If Monica wants to talk about that at all.
If anybody has kids, yeah, we do some Zoom classes now. And we're trying to do a little more. We're trying to do much more, but that might take a little bit of time.
Hey, Monica,
Mm-hmm.
do you have a link to the Zoom classes that you can drop into Stacie so she can put it up?
Yeah, I can chat. I can put it on a chat, no?
Oh, yeah, you can.
Put it on a chat.
Yes.
And also the address for the website.
Yes, I can do that.
Okay.
Beautiful. Should we talk about the theme?
I think
Our
we
theme.
should.
Very
A wonderful
apt.
theme. The wild unknown.
Yeah. And shit's pretty wild, and most things at the moment are pretty damn unknown. So good thinking us before we knew about the pandemic. Yeah, well done. So before everything went down and we were all shuffled into tiny boxes on a small screen, we wrote this description of this theme, and I think it's actually still very fitting, because what is more wild and what is more unknown than what is going on right the fuck now? Like, there is some crazy stuff. So this month, How to Build a Fire is leaping into the void. The interdisciplinary interactivity of Void & Co., which was the exhibition on in the gallery. Again, really worth a look. The void contains more connotations. It's a room that is empty, an unfinished space, a gap, or a vacuum. It can also mean a sense of emptiness and loneliness, a feeling that there is something missing. In its original form, the void may not be anything to be desired, but in this space, there is enormous potential. A potential to fill with content that is not yet filled or makes sense. Void & Co. will, with its projects, and as will we, try to fill the void with stories that in one way or another are missing. And so, How to Build a Fire, with stories from and about the wild unknown, enter the void. From our relationship with the outdoors, the out of the ordinary, and the out of this world, the ways that humans expand through brushing up against something we don't quite understand yet. Have you ever been on a wild adventure in a place that you didn't expect? What did learning how to communicate with your new pet teach you? How many ghost stories have you felt creep into you through your bones and inform the way that you move in the more predictable parts of your life? Let's join in with our beautiful storytellers. As you can see them, they're right there, Shuba and Ray. There you are. Shuba and Ray, wow! let's leap into the void with our storytellers and get into the wild parts of our experience and lean into what we don't yet know. Welcome to the wild unknown.
We are.
Awesome.
Okay. So, what time is it? Almost 8:30. Okay. We thought we would start with just a couple of little tiny wild unknown stories, just to get folks into the feeling of wild unknownness before we queue up Shiba and Raven. So I'm going to tell a little story that is not really a story, but I'm going to tell it as if it's a story.
It's a micro story. It's a short story.
Yeah, I just think it's not actually a story. I'm just going to.
Oh, okay. It can
It's
be
also
whatever
short,
it needs
but
to be.
it's not really a fully fleshed out story. So a thing that is true is that in the last week and a half or so, I have written several short memoir pieces about times in the past when I have gotten lost in the woods. There are a surprising number of times that I have been lost in the woods, which I didn't actually realize when I started. I thought I was just going to tell this one story. Then I was like, oh, wait, then there was that story. And then there was that story. Like, clearly the woods have it in for me. Like, I walk into the woods and the woods try very hard to absorb me. It's a little alarming. But I was thinking about the most recent Lost in the Woods story, which happened this past September when I was at a writing retreat in upstate New York. Now, the woods that I went to walk in are pretty small, and I didn't get more than 10 minutes away from the place where I was staying. But in that 10 minutes, though I had very carefully followed all the painted blazes on the trees to get to a certain point, I reached a certain point and all the blazes in front of me that I could see as I was walking, all of them suddenly I couldn't see anymore. They were all gone. And when I turned around, I thought, well, I'll just leave because that's messed up, but I'm just going to go. So when I turned around, none of the blazes that had gotten me to that point were there anymore either. It was like everything had just changed in the 5 seconds that I was standing there realizing that I couldn't see blazes anymore. And so I thought, well, fine. I didn't walk that far. I'm just going to walk back out again. So I started walking on what seemed to be the path, only to discover that I was in fact not in the place where I had been when I had walked to that spot in the first place, which is not okay. And so, I mean, obviously here I am telling, so I obviously got out of the woods. I'm not still lost in the woods. But I had to walk back to the place where I started being lost and try 3 different times to get out of that spot. Every time I walked on what looked like the path, I wound up in a completely different place from any of the other times I had walked on the path. I feel like that forest was just like, oh, here's one. We'll just have her. And it might have happened. I mean, surely someone would have come looking for me, but who knows what path they would have been on. Maybe they wouldn't have found me. So I was thinking about that story and about how the reality of the space that I was standing in just seemed to change even as I was standing in it, which I want to believe is not actually what happened, but it's certainly how I experienced it. So it seems like that's what happened. And that, thinking about that weird change of reality, reminded me of a dream that I had, which is one of the reasons I was hoping that my mom was going to log in, because the dream was about a time that she and I were on the street in Brooklyn. This is in the dream. We're on the street in Brooklyn trying to get away from some random man. And we morphed into wolves in order to run more effectively away from him, which was fantastic. It was so great. I totally forgot about being worried about the guy who was following us and just like fell into how great it felt to run like a wolf and to look over and see my mom also as a wolf running beside me. And it was beautiful. And she just looked so powerful and amazing. And that was like a really glorious moment. And I woke up and I just kept seeing her as the wolf and how she was running. actually down 4th Avenue in Brooklyn. But thinking about that, like how these random weird reality shifts can happen is one of the things that I thought about when I thought about the wild unknown. It's like, you never know. You think you're gonna take a casual little walk in the woods and then the woods try to swallow you. You think you're just gonna walk down, 4th Avenue in downtown Brooklyn, and then instead you're running like a wolf. Like all kinds of things are possible. And I feel like we're living right now through some really fucked up craziness that's maybe also showing us all kinds of things that are possible. And that's all I have to say. that's my whole story.
Stacie! Yeah!
So not a story, but just
how do
talking.
we clap on Zoom? Can someone
Like
tell
this.
me?
You can clap. You can make sound, or you can do sign
Oh
language
yeah.
clapping.
Oh, Shuba, I love it. I love it. I love it.
I found this earlier today. You click this reaction button. But there's
Oh,
only
really?
2 reactions, thumbs up and clapping. It's
Oh,
very
where are you seeing that?
It's down on my computer, it's like down at the
Oh,
bottom.
there's the
I
clapping.
need
I see
bigger
it.
reactions than that. I need
don't see
like
it.
fuck yeah!
It may not be everyone's like version, but yeah, but I like how it's
I just
really
see where I
possible.
can raise my
Like,
hand.
You
I
cannot
don't
do
see
a
about
thumbs
clapping.
down. You can't do a frowny face. You can
Good.
do clapping and thumbs up. Those are the only
Yeah.
options.
Well, I only need those options right now because Stacey Evans, you are so beautiful, and thumbs fucking up and also clapping. Yes. Beautiful.
Is it
I love
weird
that
if
you
we've
brought up
also had? Is it weird if we've also had dreams about Stacie becoming a wolf?
I haven't had
Maybe, but I
dreams
kind of
about.
like it. But I think we should all be dreaming about me becoming a wolf.
I certainly will now. One of the really formative experiences of like my burgeoning pubescent sexuality was like all of the Duran Duran film clips. One of them being Humpty Like the Wolf. So, I'm super into this. I'm just picturing you
I
and your
wasn't
mom
thinking this going
and
there
like
at all.
with something
John
like
Taylor for the
wine, and I'm
win.
hungry like the wolf. It's
Yes,
great.
absolutely.
Hungry like the wolf.
I mean, I just have recurring dreams of Stacie becoming a wolf.
Yeah.
Now, every time I think of that dream with my mother, that's going to be the soundtrack. That's going
There's gonna be like a pubescent Christina, like, realize I'm a big gay. Shit.
Thumbs up for John Taylor for sure. Duran Duran for the win. Yeah.
I know, right? Girls on
Yes.
Film, that was a really important thing for me to do when I was 12. Shit. Whew. One more time, Stacey Evans. You're so
No, now it's time for Christina Marks to tell us a little story.
Yes, hello. So coronavirus doesn't feel quite as like all ominous, even though I have a lot of people who are very vulnerable and like it's very scary and there's lots of isolation. But my beautiful husband and my in-laws and I just came out of a really difficult time. So we were in Portland because my brother-in-law was in hospital and he was on like a ventilator and like life support, basically a medically induced coma. And so we were all in the hospital for that to happen for like we got back to New York a week ago, and for the 2 weeks prior to that, and then another week before that, we were on the West Coast, kind of at bedside, a little bit touch and go, like very much in the wild unknown, very much not quite sure how things were going to pan out. And so this story is about Super Tuesday more than anything else. It's about Super Tuesday. And so we were all kind of sitting around in the CICU, and it was Super Tuesday, and we were really like, it was time for my brother-in-law to be waking up. It was time for him to be coming to. It was time that we should be able to have a full-blown conversation with him. And we've got like half an eye on Nick, who's not really responding as well as we want him to. And we've got half an eye on what's going on during Super Tuesday, just like, fuck. And so funneling all of this energy into like, oh my God, what is going on? And half watching like my loved one being like, fuck, I don't know how to deal with that. Ah! But he wakes up during the day and he's starting to like respond with blinking his eyes, and he's saying a few words. We get for about 5 hours, the responses that we get, the verbal responses that we're really excited about are yes, a clear yes, a clear no, and a very clear what? And so that's what we've got to work with for about 5 hours. And so that's a long time kind of anxiously waiting. And so something very strange happens when you're in that state of focus and anxiety for that long. You start to like just function on that level. And so our focus goes back to Super Tuesday. You know, we're all sitting around his bed and we're all half watching the TV and half an eye on Nick and half an eye on the TV. And eventually it gets to the time where it's like, all right, we got to go home now. Like we've got to go back to the hospital guest house. And so Andrew and I walk out of the room, and his mother stays in the room with Nick for a little while longer to change a dressing or something like that. And she comes out into the hallway and calls us back into the room like, Christina, I think you'll be able to understand what he's saying. He's saying something, I don't get it. I'm not sure. I think maybe he's saying something about a computer. And I walk into the room and I'm like, Nick, hey, how's it going? What do you need to say to me? And this like very hoarse throat. He's had tubes. He's had all the shit down his throat. It's been awful. Very hoarse voice comes out and it's like, MSNBC. No one knows what he's saying. And I'm like, hang on, Nick, say it again. And he's like, MSNBC. Wants to watch Super Tuesday. Of course. That's all we've been talking about for the last like 48 hours. Of course he wants to watch Super fucking Tuesday. And so out of the wild unknown and into the wild unknown we go. Fucking remain here seemingly forever. So I'm personally gonna get real comfortable and take a leaf out of my brother-in-law's book. Like, however shitty your situation is, like, keep half an eye on what is going on, because that's gonna tell you what's gonna happen to you later, you know, when it falls apart the next time. So that's my little
Let's turn on MSNBC.
MSNBC! Yes? No? What?
They'll never steer you wrong. Christina, we kept on hearing Super Tuesday because of the accent, which is kind of a better name for that day.
Super Tuesday.
Super Tuesday.
Oh, Tuesday? Like Tuesday?
I'm gonna make a Super Tuesday. Yeah. No, choose like your
like
elected
like
official.
A choice.
Yeah.
Ah. Yeah, I am foreign. I can't
Just created a new term.
Super Tuesday.
Super Tuesday.
Okay, so thank you, Christina. How are we clapping? I still don't know how to do it on Zoom. I've lost it. Okay, so now.
Ricky, well done. I love that.
It would help if I called up the bio so that I could read it. Wouldn't it?
So we're going to move on to one of our beautiful storytellers, right?
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
So if I was a better host, I would already be prepared.
You are a perfect host, and I love you. And one of the things that I love about you is that when you don't have a thing pulled up, I get to look at your beautiful face more.
Aww.
So take that.
And this is one of many reasons that I love Christina, because she always backs me up and props me up. And
yeah, it's because I'm hungry like the wolf.
And plants really terrible earworms in my head. Okay.
All right, that's in the car
so
alarm.
I am going to introduce my dear friend Shiva Bala. Who is in a beautiful mustard yellow chair and looking very regal.
I think my shirt matches my chair. That's what I
It
was.
really does, and your earrings are blending in like to the whole thing because your curtains are like blue, and your drink is yellow, and your shirt is like pink and blue. Oh my God, it's
Yeah, it's looking very good.
Thanks. We put up the curtain about 15 minutes ago for this.
I put up this wall yesterday. You put up the curtain 15 minutes ago. I
hung
fucking
this
love
picture
it.
right before turning on my camera because I didn't want to just have a plain white wall behind me.
I love that we're all
Okay.
redecorating and doing our hair. Like
Just for you, just for you. Shiva identifies as an Indo-Canadian queer artist who tells stories through performance, writing, and visual art. Their writing and visual art has been published in Off the Coast, Ink Art, and Ego the Mag, among other literary magazines. And they have exhibited at Brown Girl Speaks. This is my home too. They have performed at Green Life Bookstore, the 92nd Street Y, and Saki's annual Gender Justice and Art Showcase, among other venues. Shiva is an alum of the graphic novel program at Voices of Our Nations Arts Foundation, which is how we met. Woo!
Yes! Awesome!
Shiva has also nurtured the storytelling of others through being a co-director of the community-led production Yoni Kirat, Storytelling by South Asian and Indo-Caribbean People, and through founding Kalyani Magazine, a literary magazine that was devoted to the voices of women and gender non-binary people of color. Currently, Shiva produces a podcast called A They Them Journey, which explores the impact of binaries on themselves and is creating artistic quilts that explore identity, gender, and home. So everybody, welcome Shiva.
Yay, Shiva! Hello, thank you. I've never done a storytelling on Zoom. It's weird seeing everyone's face really closely instead of far away in like a sea of heads. But I guess I can always switch to speaker view. I don't know what happens if I'm the speaker and I switch to speaker view, but anyway.
No, you'll see yourself.
I think it just hangs out on whoever was previously the speaker.
Yeah, I think so too. It doesn't show you.
Damn, I guess it's better than not seeing me. Okay.
Gallery's probably better for talking.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you. I am excited to share a short little story with all of you. So my story starts out last June. So last June, I was getting ready to go on a silent retreat, a meditation retreat in the mountains of New Mexico, a little bit outside of Albuquerque. And I was very excited because it was my first time. It was not my first time going on a silent retreat, but it was my first time going on a silent retreat to this place. And it was my first time going with my friend Miriam. We were going to do this 5-day silent retreat together and then spend some time in New Mexico where neither of us had been before. So we're very excited. And before I left, as I was packing, getting ready, I said to Daniel, who is my partner, who just left for some reason, I said to him, wouldn't it be funny if we got the call now? It was a joke because that was impossible because, yeah, it was just like impossible to happen. So I fly to Albuquerque with Miriam, we rent a car, we drive the 6 hours to this retreat center. It was actually 7 hours because we got lost in the woods, speaking of lost stories, on the way there. So we get to this retreat. It is like, it was more gorgeous than I could have possibly imagined. It's in the mountains, no cell service, no internet. There's like tents, there's a river running through this center. Across the river in this valley, you're seeing more mountains, no roads, no cars, no buildings, just beauty. And for me personally, an added bonus, they told us there was like no poisonous things to worry about. There was no light.
It's a very important detail.
Yeah, it was like, they were basically like, you can lie in the grass and like nothing, you won't die. So it was she's gorgeous and non-deadly, which are two great parts of being on a retreat. And so we got there Thursday night. We had our orientation. Which is pretty typical, had sort of an hour of silence before bedtime. Beautiful. Get up Friday morning. I get up extra early, which I now do when I go to retreats, and I found this spot like 5 minutes away overlooking the river and just played music and like danced under these gigantic trees. Then we came together, had like a community gathering, and then started our first formal meditation, which in this case was walking meditation. So just like observing your body in space as you walk silently. And so as an aside, for those of you who have not been on retreats before, or this type of retreat, I'm sure they're all different. It's silent in that you're like not reading, you're not writing, you're not journaling, you're not taking in like words other than what's in your own brain and what the teacher is saying. But you need a way to like communicate from time to time, right? Like you're too cold, or you're like allergic to some food, or you need some medication. So the way it works is they have these like tiny pieces of paper like this big, and you write your message, and then you fold it and you write the name, usually of a staff person or a teacher, on the outside, and you pin it to this bulletin board. And then throughout the day, you're sort of walking back and forth, and you're bored, or I'm bored, and then I'm like looking at the bulletin board, seeing, did anyone, like usually a staff person, give a note to me. So this is like the only way you communicate. So I'm out and I'm like walking really slowly in this circle, and I see out of the corner of my eye someone walking towards me. And so I adjust my pace a little bit so that that person can like walk by me and, you know, not be disturbed, and I'm not disturbed, and we're all great. So I'm walking in my circle, adjusting my pace, and then I see them like adjust their path and like walk towards me, and then I'm like adjusting my pace more, and they're like adjusting more, like walking towards me. And I finally realized they're like coming to me and a staff person, and they hand me this folded up piece of paper with my name on it. Like, this is a complete violation of like every communication rule, because it's not on the bulletin board. They're like handing it to me. So I'm immediately thinking like, oh my God, I fucked up already. Like 10 hours on this retreat. Like, did I do my kitchen job like badly? Or like, was I supposed to ring the bell differently this morning? Like, just a lot of things going through my head. And I open the note, and it says, Daniel is trying to reach you re-adoption. If you would like to talk to him, you can grab the phone in the office. And I'm like reading this note, I'm like, I nod my head, I'm like following the woman, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, this can't be the call, because we have literally been waiting about 1 month. We were told, we're anticipating about 2 years. So we're like, this is not the call. We have nothing ready. We don't have a doctor. We haven't read anything about diapers. Like, this can't be that. So I'm thinking like, okay, maybe it's about paperwork. Maybe we forgot something. And I'm walking slowly because everybody else is walking slowly. But then I'm like, no, Daniel knows how serious a retreat is. He would not call me about like paperwork. And as I'm thinking, I'm like walking faster and faster and faster. And then I'm like speed walking to the office following the staff person. And sure enough, it was the call. There was a 2-week-old baby already waiting to be placed with us. It's now Friday, waiting to be placed with us on Monday in New Jersey. So yeah, that was the call. And so this could be like an entire story just about that whole weekend, which was both Pride weekend and like 3 days before July 4th. And like was in the mountains of Albuquerque, whatever. The weekend we like went to Target, had to get everything, had to read a baby book about diapers and what to feed babies, and all of that stuff. We had to come up with a name by Monday, and that was in part easy because he had a beautiful name, and he still has that beautiful name, Alu, which was a gift from his mother and his grandmother, and it's a combination of both of their names. But we still had to come up with a middle name and a last name. So as we're doing everything frantically, we come up with Ezra for his middle name, which is a combination of Daniel's grandfather and my grandfather. And then we decide to combine Daniel and my last name, not hyphenated. So we just squish them together to form Bala Bear. And so We did come up with a name and diapers and all of that. But this is not that story. So for a bit of context, I have always wanted to adopt my whole life. And I don't know why, and I don't know why I'm supposed to know why. I know why not. It's not for religious reasons. It's not to save a baby, nothing charitable. It's not because I had to. I've been pregnant before, so that's not the reason either. I've just always wanted to. When I was a teenager, I used to imagine my future, as we all did when we were teenagers. And I imagined being single and having lovers around the world and adopting 3 kids, and me and my kids would go and live for like a few months in this country and a few months in that country. And, it was both like this beautiful, like super independent lifestyle, but also the most connected life, where we'd have aunties and uncles and cousins and siblings and birth parents and birth grandparents and found family and nibblings. And so it was both like the most independent thing and the most connected thing that I could imagine. And of course, some parts of our teenage dreams come true and some parts end up being like a little bit different than what we expected. But part of that was the adoption process, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with it, is not the romantic process that I thought it would be, or that I maybe didn't think about. And it's both like bureaucratic and boring, but also it really was trying to box me in to a vision that was not my vision, to the extent that at some point I felt like maybe I wasn't supposed to be on this path, like maybe there was something wrong with me. It was really trying to present this assumption that I wanted this heteronormative family. I wanted a mom and a dad and a baby that belonged to us, and that was what I was trying to craft. And that was the assumption made like with every step along the way. And the worst one, like the one that was the most upsetting for me, was this form they had called the Family Characteristics Form. And it sounds beautiful. It's like, cool, we're coming up with the characteristics of our family. That's awesome. But what it actually was a 3-page checklist of what we were like willing to put up with or willing to accept in the birth mother or first mother of our child. Not with the actual child, because the path that we chose, people are getting either matched up with children before they're born or pretty much in the hospital. So this was not about the child, this was about the mother. And so, for example, the very first question was, how much drinking are you okay with during pregnancy? Mild, moderate, or heavy? And then like the whole first page is like every single substance, like every drug you've ever tried in your life, broken down into like a separate question. And then there were these questions that were like ostensibly supposed to be genetic, but like I know enough to know that these were just racist questions, like if the mother has bipolar disorder. But what they really mean is if the mother has been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And we know in the United States that it's overwhelmingly Black girls that get diagnosed with bipolar disorder. So it's not telling you anything. It broke down autism into these weird categories, like not only the mother, but also like their siblings and like aunts and uncles. It was really crazy, and you were having to check off what you were okay with. Some of them weren't even logical, like if the mother had fetal alcohol syndrome, that's not even genetic. Like what would that have to do with anything on this thing? So I found it like just so upsetting, but I couldn't articulate why. And it was upsetting to the point that like it made me want to throw up. I would think about it in the shower, and it just like upset me to my core, but I couldn't explain why. And Daniel, who now I'm putting on the spot because he's sitting right across from me, he didn't get it. And he was like, you're not thinking about the future, and you're not thinking about what it's really gonna be like to be a parent of this child. And he was like, you're just being, I don't know what he thought, but he's sitting there, but you're being like this fantastical, just like whatever. You're not thinking about what it would really be like. And so I remember, like, for example, this one, like, near the end, near when things blew up, where we were reading this, like, paper from the UK that was, like, a randomized control trial of, like, kids maybe whose parents had congenital heart defects, but then it was tracking like asthma incidences, but it was tracking how many times they went to the hospital in the first couple of years of their life. And we're sitting there arguing about it. And in one case, it's like 0.5% of the kids. In the other case, it's 1% of the kids. And we're reading this, trying to translate it to this checkbox, and then think about what it means for the next 20 years of our life. My head was going to explode. But, you know, at one point I agreed to call my cousin, who's a pediatric cardiologist at UPenn, and talk through this checklist and figure out, you know, what should we be saying on this checklist. And to some extent, she was actually pretty helpful. You know, she described how some of the substances on this list have no bearing whatsoever on like outcomes for children. But at the end of the call, she said, you know, if I were you, I would check no for a lot of these things, because you already have so many unknowns when you're adopting. Why would you want more? And it was that moment that I think I realized what I was feeling. She said it with this sort of period at the end of the sentence, you know, like of course nobody wants unknowns. No one wants a family full of unknowns. You know, that's a given. And so why would you subject yourself to that? And I realized, I think that for me, this fantasy, this vision I had of family was about the unknown. It was about this idea of having this like blank piece of paper that you were going to get to create anything on, that you would get to create something brand new and that you can't even imagine. And that's what I wanted all along, was this sort of exploration. And so I made this, I was going through a paper engineering phase at that time. So I made this wheel for Daniel and put it on our wall. Oh wait, I think it's backwards. Is it backwards?
No, it's reading really clearly.
Okay, great. It's like backwards for me. So I won't go through it all, but this says, it is blank to not know. And it is blank to not know. That's what they both say, but they're always opposite. So this says, it is unnatural to not know, or it is natural to know.
That's beautiful.
And then this one says, it is love to not know. And then it is hard to not know.
Oh.
I won't go through them all, but there is.
Oh, no, please read a couple more.
Okay. It is difficult to not know, or it is freeing to not know. Yes. And I purposely made this sky, stars, you know, the universe. It is adventure to not know, and it is challenging to not know. And there's one. Oh, there's two more that so this says, it is abnormal to not know, and it is family to not know. And I think I have, here's one that just says, it is life to not know, and it is life to not know. And so I put that on our wall. So it has been 9 months since that retreat, and since Alu came into our lives, Alu Ezra Bala Bear, and I realized that I got it really wrong. So Daniel and I are next week virtually going to get married. Oh no, I can't look at him because he's crying. Okay, we are going to get married for the third time. Sorry, I should have finished that sentence. We are going to get sort of married for the third time. We were married twice. I can't tell if like people got that we were doing it twice.
Yes, it's beautiful. The third time, the second time, the 47th time. It's fucking great.
We're getting married because through a loophole in New York City weird laws, for us to change our last names, it is easier for us to do it through marriage, even if we're getting married for the third time, than any other way. And so next week, we are going to get married again so that we can change our last names to Alu's last name, Alu Ezra Bala Bear, because I have been getting it wrong all along, and especially for Alu, who is adopted, who is part of an adopted family. This is actually his story and his journey of a life exploring the unknown. And Daniel and I are just joining his journey to the unknown.
Oh, yes.
Oh, that story's amazing.
Shuba! Yes!
That was so beautiful.
Thank you, Shuba. Oh my goodness. I'm clapping in all the ways I know how.
My favorite thing is that you've rotated through like everybody crying privately and all of a sudden and then they're clapping and you can see the tears on their face. That story was amazing.
Shuba, thank you
I have to
so
say
much.
that my experience of Shuba's experience of eventually winding up in the family she is in right now often involves me crying. So when I heard her tell an amazing and beautiful story at Yoni Kirat, she ended it by singing something that she would sing to the baby that she would one day have. And I was a just blubbering mess puddle on the floor. And then when I found out that she and Daniel were adopting Alu, I thought about that story and I was crying again. So then when I met him, the baby, I was also crying again. Just like a whole array of crying experiences out of just love and happiness.
And we do sing that song to him every single night. So
yes, and when you told me that, I started to cry again.
Are we going to be able to hear the song or no?
Do you want me to cry some more, Terrence? What is wrong with you?
Tears of joy, tears of pain,
See, this is storytelling. If there's not crying, it's not storytelling.
One of the things that Shuba and I used to say when we were in graphic novel workshop is there's no crying in graphic novel. There should not be any crying out of the fire either.
we can sing it if you want. I don't.
Yes, please.
Please.
Please do. Please do.
Okay, Daniel's willing to sing it too. You have to unmute yourself.
I need tissues.
No, it might just be me. It's not like.
It's not compulsory to cry, guys, but just brace yourself.
Okay, ready? But that's
tissues.
Are you gonna? Or is there an echo?
Yeah, I'll take my headphones off.
No, there's an echo. Whether you have your headphones off or not.
Why don't you both sit
Daniel,
in the chair?
you could
Oh,
mute
yeah, why don't we
yourself
just,
and
I'll just sing like through your.
Okay, that's fine.
And the screens are joined.
It's gonna be
Embarrassing?
well.
And beautiful and perfect, and I love you. Thank you.
Okay, ready?
This is so beautiful, by the way.
Okay. The warmth
of your smiles, like the warmth of the sun. This will be our year. Took a long time to come. You don't have to worry, all your worry days are gone. This will be our year. Took a long time to come. And I won't forget the way you held me up when I was down. And I won't forget the way you said, darling, I love you. You give me faith to go on. Now we're there, and we've only just begun. This will be our year. Took a long time to come.
Oh, wow.
Oh, it's the Kinks! It's the goddamn Kinks! I love it! Oh!
That is lovely.
Thank you so much. That was
I'm sorry
so
to all the
beautiful.
storytellers that follow that story.
Thank you all for hearing that story.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, man, something that really strikes me about all of the stages of what you were just describing, all of the stages of your story, is like, is you walking into this process with such a like whatever process, whether it's going to a retreat or going on a journey back to the call, or your understanding of what adoption is transforming from your ideals of family into, you know, like what family is actually going to be for you. Like there's this constant backbone of humility towards not knowing, and an embrace of that, like the beautiful kind of almost like life prompt that you made to go on your wall. Like I need one of them for my life, please. like not knowing and embracing that as something that is positive and expansive and full of growth. It was just so present in what you were saying, and I'm really grateful that you shared. Thank you, Shubha.
Thank you, Shiva.
Yay!
Just gonna keep
So
crying
wonderful.
forever. In like the best way. Don't worry, I cry all the things.
That was lovely.
Beautiful. Should we have like a 2-minute break?
Yes, because I want to go get some tissues.
No, you gotta pee. Stacey's gotta
Get a beer.
pee.
I need to, you know, water in, water out.
And
if
also
you
some
wanna
more
get
wine, you know.
No, we've got wine, we've got beers, we've got whatever
Hey.
you've got in the fridge, basically.
Christina, could you please point out the bathroom for everybody?
Yeah, it's right there.
Right over
See
here.
you later, all right?
There
I'll
is a
see you in
lock on the
minute.
door.
It's got a power drill and there's no mirror, and it's like a utility sink.
For those of you who have been to Open Source Gallery before, that's exactly what it looks like. It's it's a closet with some utility sink. But I'm gonna run. Hey, my mom is here.
Oh.
Mary, hi. Hey.
Hello. It's such an
You
honor
joined
to
us
be
for
here.
brunch.
What time is it in
Yeah,
Australia?
coffee time for me.
Nice. Yeah, I think it's like 11 a.m. on Saturday morning, right?
Correct. That's about it. A bit after. Yeah.
Oh my God, it's the future.
All right.
That's
so
what the
we'll
future
be
sounds
back.
like. All right.
We'll be back in about 5 minutes. Chat amongst yourselves. I actually do have to go to my bathroom, so I'll see you in a minute. Better mute myself.
Ow.
Mary, where are you?
What?
Where are you?
I'm in my living room.
No, honey, not you. I'm talking to Mary.
Yeah, Christina's mom.
I'm sorry.
Oh, so are you in Australia?
I am in Australia. Yes.
I was like, why is it so bright where you are? That would explain
Because
it.
it's daytime.
Yes.
I'm in the Blue Mountains west of Sydney. You might have heard about our recent terrible fire crisis.
Yes.
And then we had some floods. And now the garden is absolutely alive. I'll be too far away from the Wi-Fi to show you, but it's middle of the day, and it's lovely and fresh and sunny today after quite a lot of rain, and that's bringing our spirits up a bit. And it's wonderful to be able to join you. I've known about the how to build a fire workshop that Christina's been doing for a while, but to be able to come and meet some of the people and participate is just a real honor.
Hey, Mary.
Yes, it's so great that you're here.
Hey, Mary.
She invited me, so I came.
I'm the guy that started this thing. Would you be willing to tell a story tonight?
Tell a story. Yep.
Right, that's so great.
So we've got some folks that we invited to tell stories, and we're also, just to remind everybody as well, we're going to open the floor to like short stories, about 5 minutes. Our theme is the wild unknown. So if you want to tell a story, if anybody wants to tell a story, Mom, if you want to tell a story.
It doesn't have to be an embarrassing story about Christina, but it should be.
Oh, you get points in this.
Well,
But you have a few minutes now while we're on break to imagine what your story might be.
Yeah, so
start to frame my
Jessie,
story and
Charlotte,
think about it.
Everybody, Ricky, think about it. Michelle, what's your story? Yeah.
Oh, and maybe Jess is going to tell us about her super adorable dog.
Where is that dog? Can you show us that face?
This is my little sister. This is the daughter that my mother wished she had all along. I fled New York City back when I could, and I left to go stay with family. So
yes, before they burnt the bridges.
exactly. So this is the little one keeping me sane right now.
Yay!
Giving me puppy
Excellent.
cuddles.
I know. I suppose I had a window of opportunity to flee the city, but to go stay in my mom's house, which I'm sorry I'm not in, would also have made me crazy because my brother and sister are both there, and the dog, and just a lot of people in one house. So yeah, I think it's good that I'm here by myself.
It's funny seeing like all of the people who are truly introverted be like, yes, excellent. Now my true self is validated. Like I'm having secret moments of like, yeah, no, I'd never wanted to go to your thing. I never wanted to go to anything. And I'm never going to again because it's not safe. I mean, because it don't, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I was born to be told that I have to stay in my house all the time. It's like my ideal position. Like, I really like
I listened
it.
to an NPR story this week about all the introverts that realized how much they desire human interaction for the first time when like they had the opportunity, like when they were forced to be in their homes. It was like one NPR story that was just introverts talking about how much they crave interaction. I thought that was a beautiful like twist on this whole situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I suppose I crave a little bit of human interaction, but not the kind that requires me to leave my house. Not like this is perfect.
No. Like this kind of distance is great. Like once a month, it's really good.
I'm going stir crazy.
Being quarantined in the virtual.
Yes, there is that. But then I remembered, I can actually leave the house. I don't have to stay here. I just have to stay away from other people.
Shuba, did you just say virtual dance club?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we were dancing the other night together and you didn't even know it.
I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm ready. I just hit my head on some shelves, but I'm gonna go.
Nice ones too.
Do you know when his next one is gonna be?
Do we have a...
Sorry.
Oh, wow.
Do you know when his next one is gonna be?
No, I assume they're every other day. But I was just saying that 6 p.m. dance club.
Every other day?
Dress up or leave my apartment. Like this is my dream dance club.
Yes.
And he plays for hours. Like 2 nights ago, he started at 6:30 and he didn't finish until 1:30.
Oh my
It was
God,
amazing.
wow.
It was
Yeah.
really
I think I'd have like a tiny heart attack. Like, and also I'd fall asleep halfway through, more earlier than halfway through. That's too long. Like 8:30.
Yeah, I tried to carry it on
guys.
too long. Like I stayed up till 1:30 and then everybody was like, oh, we're going over to Questlove's dance party. And I was like, yes. I was asleep within minutes. I was like, it's over.
Man, I've never been invited to Questlove's dance party ever before.
I think it's a public invitation.
Now.
You don't have to have like a membership card to that, Christina.
Is that true? I had to show up at Quest Love's house like, hey, Terrence said it was cool.
No, it's virtual, guys.
It's virtual. It's all on Instagram Live. But the great thing about the D Nice party was that so Holly Berry was there, The Rock was there.
Okay, so you know how I was talking about Duran Duran film clips? Halle Berry was very
there.
much
There are
there.
all these people who are not hanging out with
Fun
me in
fact
my
about
real
Halle
life.
Berry. Fun
Stacey,
fact
are you
about Halle
basically
Berry.
saying that you could say
We were
it?
born on the same day.
Oh.
Born on the same me. Yeah, Halle Berry with 15th of August, 66. Yeah.
That makes what I just
See,
said
it's
very
as if we have
weird.
Halle Berry in our storytelling event tonight too,
But
because
Christina's
we got
mom, you look
married.
so much better than Halle Berry. It's not even there's no comparison.
Well, I'll consider that one. Thank you.
Yeah.
So on that spectacular note, I think we should get back to our regular programming. I mean,
I think so too.
We've had some time for water in, water out. Most of us are back, and if we're not, you know, you can join in. That's okay. We're pretty casual here, you know, pretty laid back. We have one more storyteller, do we not?
We do. We have one more invited storyteller, but as your host, I am unprepared because I don't have a bio, so I'm just gonna wing it.
Stacie, can you tell us a little bit about how you met Raven and also how amazing Raven is? Because I'm just like looking at your face right now, Ray, and I'm seeing you glow and you are wonderful, and I just want to know more about it.
My favorite moment.
I'm gonna tell you some things about my friendship with Raven. One is that Raven has been my, I don't know, co-conspirator, partner in crime for a couple of my experiences of the 24-hour project, which means she and I spent all night and all day and all night again out in the street taking pictures together. There are few people
That should be
I can
interesting this year.
imagine having more fun doing this with than Raven, because she is always up for whatever adventure. She is usually suggesting the adventure. She's way more adventurous than I am. so she's good about getting me out of my like, ooh, can we do that? Because she just does it, which is great. And so getting to like roam the city all night long with her and be half asleep on our feet the next night because we've been out for 24 hours is a lot of fun. And yeah, she just is one of the most, I mean, brave is sort of an overused word for describing people, but I'm still going to use it. One of the bravest, most fun, most not conventional in all of the best possible ways people I've ever known. And I'm really thrilled that she's here to tell us a story.
Yay!
Thank you.
Welcome,
Hello, people.
Hello.
Well, I finished my Corona, so I'll have to go get another one. My story also has to do a little bit with motherhood, but mine is going a little further down the road. For me, the great unknown moment was realizing that my babies weren't babies anymore. There just comes this point where you're looking at these kids that you've brought into this world or you've raised into this world, and they're no longer kids. I remember that I was sitting on my front porch. It was one of the days, at that time I worked a mixed schedule, so I was off that day. My older son had just started college, so he was off that day too. So we were both sitting on the front porch because it was early spring at that point. So my youngest was coming home from junior high school. We're sitting there and we're watching him come down the block towards the house. And he always had this little bit of a bop of a happy, bouncy walk. That's not what was coming to me this day. This day, he had a strut, like something in his walk was now hard. Something in him matured. He just wasn't a little boy anymore. And I could not help but notice it. And my thought was at the time, my baby is not my baby anymore. And I don't know when I missed that moment. You're bringing these men into the world, and at some point they just become this man. And I'm like, okay, he was my little boy a couple of weeks ago. That's not what's coming to me now. Something broke him, because I felt like at that moment something in him broke. He worked through it. He seemed to be fine, but something broke him to change his walk, to change his stride, his entire being as he's coming towards me. And I didn't know what to do about that. My first thought was, something broke my baby, my second thought was, where was I? Who was this person who's still living with me 24 hours a day, other than, things that kids do? When did I miss this something that happened in his life that he didn't tell me, that he's gone through, worked through? At least I hope he had worked through it at that point, because he seemed fine. And that's it. Then my thought was, well, what have I missed with my other son? What's going on in their lives that they're no longer coming to mommy and telling mommy all these things when they used to tell me everything? And I had to accept within myself, no, they're becoming men. This is about the point where they stop talking to me. And all I can do is hope that I keep talking to them. They tell me what's necessary when they need to. But it was still just this very odd disconnect of looking at what I thought was a little boy, and it's not a little boy anymore. And it was to the point that even my oldest son just looked at him and went, man, he walks hard. When did that happen? And that just brought a bigger shock to me, because if I don't recognize, if his brother is saying that, that means whatever this was that happened to my child, he missed it as well. So is he not talking, all these things that you just don't know. There are just things, I'm a strong woman. I'll say that. I will fight to the end for my children. They know that. They're grown men now. They're both in their 30s. The oldest is 2 years from 40, so obviously this is a while ago. But at that time, I just thought, what the hell happened? And what else am I going to miss? And how do I compensate? I felt I needed to compensate, letting them know that I'm still here. Your father's still here. I hope that you still know that you can talk to me. I'm not even going to promise that I won't get mad. Your boys, you have my genes. You're going to do something that's going to piss me off. That's just the way life is. But I will promise, once I calm down, I will work with you. And that was just junior high school, and this is junior high school. So now I'm carrying this thought through what's going to happen through high school, what's going to happen through college, what's going to happen. And the wild unknown being that I have to step back now. I have to step back and let them be the men that they're going to be. So it's loosening the apron string, but not quite ready to cut it off. And to be honest, I'm not 57, and like I said, but they're both in their 30s. And that apron string is still there, just a little tiny bit. They both know that if all shit breaks down, they can come. Well, they can't live with me because I have a one-bedroom and they want their own for that. But they know they can come to me. But I feel like yesterday I just taught them how to tie their shoes. Oh, great. Now I'm buying condoms for them. Oh, hell, what? It never ends. I'm a parent for the rest of my life. It's the most honor I've had in this title. It's also the most scary thing that I've had in this title. And none of that, you don't realize any of these little unknowns that are going to come to you until they come to you, and you just deal with each one as you can. But it's just this thing. And now I'm sitting here and I'm trying not to pick up the phone every 5 minutes. Did you wash your hands? Did your girlfriend wash your hands? Because one girlfriend works for the MTA, and she still has to go to work every day. So it's like, what is she out there touching, and what is she bringing home? And I can't be that mother anymore. But it just never ends. And I think that's my wild unknown for me. How to be a mother to grown men who don't really need a mother and yet still do. So I guess my wild unknown was a little bit shorter than I thought, but yeah, that's it.
Can I ask
scary.
Yeah, it does sound
Sure.
really scary.
It actually makes me
ask
have
you
a little bit of empathy for my own mother and the way she has been communicating with me in the last 2 weeks. so yeah.
What did you touch? What did you touch?
Thanks, Mama Terrence.
Oh, please. My youngest son is like, I'm going around licking every doorknob. Like, really? I know you're joking, but really? At least I hope he is.
Hey, Ray, can I ask,
Yeah.
Is there a moment that comes to mind that really, like you had expectations for, and it just wasn't like you expected, either, you know, positive, negative, beautiful, whatever, the full spectrum, but something that you had a story about how your sons were going to be, and then it was like, whoa, shit, they are doing something totally different.
You know, that's the one thing I tried very hard not to do, because I feel as though a lot of parents put these ideas of what they should be, and I really wanted them to develop who they thought they should be organically. So I tried to support whatever they were doing, as long as, you know, it wasn't getting people, mainly themselves, killed. There was a time when my youngest he decided he was going to be the next Bruce Willis and Wesley Snipes, because those were the popular actors at that time. And yes, I went through the whole headshot and modeling and classes, because that's what he wanted to do. And, you know, we stuck to this for about a year, and then he decided, nah, not gonna happen.
Hey, Raven. I've got a really serious question for you. Is that the floor plan? Is that the floor plan of your own house behind your head?
Oh no, that's actually the floor plan to BBC Sherlock and the TV show. I was a fan of the show. Someone made that. I'm a fan girl. I write fan fiction, and that's the floor plan to Sherlock.
That is so dope.
Hey, Raven,
I can't see
so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
So it's a journey into the wild unknown, you know?
And I want to say that there's actually a connection, like a through line from our last How to Build a Fire. Was it our last one? No, 2 How to Build a Fires ago, when we had Substantia come and tell a story, because Substantia also knows Raven. Raven knows Substantia, whichever way we're saying that.
Yes.
So I feel like we're just, you know, we're just drawing the line from event to event.
Yes. Side note, if you are interested in having a look at How to Build a Fire past, and, you know, if you miss one in the future, there is a live stream that you can check out. There's lots of really interesting people. So it's an amazing resource if you are looking for folks who are in the local, like in Brooklyn, but in the wider New York area. There's an amazing group of people who are recorded telling their stories on the open source live stream. Ricky has told one, and Raven and Shuba will be there. We'll transport this into that same space. So yeah, have a look at all of those amazing people who have told stories previously. Substantia, who Stacie just mentioned, is an amazing, beautiful human who does very sexy, lovely portraits of awesome, big-bodied, fat people doing sexy stuff all over New York and the world, and she is badass. That lady is really cool. As are you, Raven. Thank you again. One more round of applause. Let's do that again. Yes.
I like that round of applause.
Yes, it's
It's a literal round of applause.
So we had a couple of folks mention on the Facebook event that they were interested in telling a short story. I have Jess and I have Julie. Is Jess and Julie around? Give us a big hello.
Jess is here.
Jess is here.
I'm here, but I misunderstood the assignment.
I love that I said an assignment and I didn't know I said an assignment, but I'll be your teacher. Absolutely.
I will pass this time, but hopefully there will be lots of quarantine stories to share.
I was going to say, it's a pretty good bet we're going to be here in April too.
Oh yeah, so if you like this format,
you can
well, most of us are going to be here in April. If you never know.
What's that? Ooh, cute cat. What's our theme for April? It's Americana.
Americana. Yes. I'm actually really excited about Americana. It's going to be really fun. There is, like I said, I am learning the banjo, and I might crack out my banjo.
If you start playing the theme from Deliverance, I'm gonna quit.
That was my first thought. What kind of
Okay, that's
Who do you
acceptable.
think I am? This
Shauna,
blonde
really quick
don't,
question.
this cheap
Really
I
look
just want
don't
to lay
come
the
cheap,
ground
you know.
rules.
Shauna, you have to
So-
unmute yourself. Hey, Shauna, what's it like in Colorado right now in comparison to New York?
I'm sure it's more relaxed, but we're still kind of on lockdown. So we've
Are
been
your rules different than ours?
Not really at this point, I think.
So you're allowed to exercise, you're allowed to go to the grocery store, the bar's going to deliver, but that's about it?
Yeah, actually, I don't think the bars can deliver. I think they can do food. I don't think we get the to-go drinks, which is a bummer.
So in the place of free weed,
We only get to-go drinks if it's a bottle, if it's sealed. So it's they can't make us like a spectacular cocktail, and then out we shimmy into the
some
pub.
bar that's bringing people pictures of things. Like they were advertising that you could buy a picture of margaritas.
Maria's on board. Bring me a picture of sangria.
It was
Bloody Marys if you want them, but
when they put the thing into effect, they initially said that liquor stores and bars and all of that weren't essential services. So we immediately went to the liquor store, which also has beer here, which is nice. But the line was crazy long, and by that evening they were like, all right, it's an essential service.
It's essential.
So in New York, at no point
I'm sorry,
in
how
New
can you
York,
have all of this happening and not have liquor stores be essential?
grocery stores closed, but liquor stores remain open.
if liquor stores close, that's the beginning of looting. So I think they're just keeping them open because they know that a goddamn brick is going through that window.
Yeah. That's for everyone's safety.
Yes,
Exactly.
absolutely.
So from
Mary,
this point,
did you want to tell a story?
Yeah.
Me?
Yes, you.
Well, I was just listening to Raven's story about when she realized her boys had turned into men overnight and wondering when that happened and what did she miss. And, she probably didn't miss it. It just happened. And I'm seeing in the next face next to mine, my own grown-up daughter, who I'm not going to be able to talk without crying. It's funny, you have a vision, and this wasn't a vision that I created for her or wanted to happen at all, but somewhere in my mind, it was Montreal. I was seeing her in this apartment in Montreal doing creative things. Not that I wanted her to go away, but here she is in New York, via Melbourne, via Seattle, and being the most extraordinary human being, more grown up than I ever was. And and funny as well.
Only just funny enough.
Sometimes very funny.
I mean, we'll be the judges of that.
Yeah, I think we've got a good crew of folks to give us some feedback on that. Thank you for coming, Mum.
I think I realized that you had grown up when you did some really brave things, and brave things that took a lot of self-awareness. And but she's always been that kind of person right from the time she was a little girl. But anyway, it's not a mummy doting on Christina fest, but speaking about the mums that ask you where you've been and if you washed your hands, it's all happening here too. And I see the stats of New York City and I'm like, oh my God. And then yesterday she rang me, said, hey mama, show me the garden. I'm like, what? Normally you roll your eyes when I say, look at the garden, look at the garden.
Oh, my eyes.
You say, oh yeah, another a bit. I get roused on a little bit, but that's, a mum's job too. But yesterday, and it was their wedding anniversary, and I thought you guys are really rocking this this lockdown business, and now I'm Zooming for the first time ever, and
Zooming!
So yep, it's great. But I am actually going to have to
you are
leave
in the future. You do actually live in the future right now, specifically the future.
Look, what the future is
Who knows? Zoom is a time machine.
I'm so with you, Ricky.
She's in Saturday. Did you know that? She's existing.
My mind just blew out the back of my head.
The question that I want to open up to people is, what story do you want told about the time that we are living in right now? Think about a couple of things that you would like to manifest, produce, leave behind, the legacy that you would like, the narrative that you would like to have written about this time that you are living in right now. It can be about your community, it can be about the individual that you are, but just have a little bit of a think about like the things that you once said about this moment, because we're in a moment of really amazing change. Historically, things have only really shifted in a big way at the precipice of kind of crisis points, like big wars or other pandemics, shit like that. We're in that moment right now, and there are stories that are being told about this time already, and there are stories that are going to be created about this time, and we're going to do that. That's in our hands in a little way. So if anyone has any ideas about what is this time about, what do you want your kids to talk about, what do you want the stories to be about? Like, are we writing King Lear too? Or are we like freaking out and bleaching our hair? Because that's what I did.
I want to hear a story from Monica having to move to Long Island. Monica, you're there. I know you're there.
Next time.
Oh, God.
I only take volunteers. I don't take suggestions.
I want to hear.
Volunteer anyone.
I want to hear about how the people that
If not,
exploited
that's
this
okay.
moment.
That's a fine question to culminate on.
I think Ricky was going to tell us something.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, I want to hear the story about the people that exploited this moment and how they were eventually taken down, but I need a little more data first. Well, yeah, why not? Why not? Let's bring it back.
You want to hear the story about how
Look at this.
how
This is
Bloomberg
insane.
after
Oh, wow.
Sirens, I'm sorry, are you in New York?
That is
Teresa,
every day in New York City, by the way.
It's a lot less frequent these days. So
Oddly, yes.
So the story about Bloomberg and how he spent $500 million on his campaign, and how there's 318 Americans, and how he could have given us all $1.5 million each. All of us. And then just like won our votes. I give him a vote, sure.
Oh, no, I wouldn't have offered up my vote, but I was going to say he could have given us each $1.5 million and still not have won the nomination.
Secret, I don't have a vote, so I'm like throwing something that I don't even have away.
You could have bought a revolution, actually. If you just given me $1.5 million, I would have overthrown the government for it. Like, all right, sure.
Mercenaries.
Price of my
They
vote,
love you
$1.5
just enough to
million
kill for you, but not enough to die.
I'm curious to see how this time is going to change the way we interact with each other. Like, one of the things I miss about the fact that we're not meeting at open source tonight is all of the hugging and, physical affection that happens when we're in that space, and all of the hugging and physical affection that happens when I'm in a lot of spaces. So how is that going to be different once we're allowed to come out of our sheltering in place? Are people
I'm looking for a phone.
going to, touch each other in the same ways that we did before all of this happened?
I think we might value it a lot more.
Yeah?
I think so.
I definitely know who's
like
not touching me after quarantine. That's for darn sure. I know who's not going to be touching me no more. I'm going to get those text messages.
I'm finding a lot of reassurance in like really strange places that shouldn't be reassuring, but like communities and human beings have been through scary physical things before. Like, you know, I start to think about the way that blood was treated in films before and after HIV, for example, as a very visual example. Like before the 80s, before HIV was a really big deal, before it, you know, like the plague of the 1980s and 90s hit, like there was just sprays of blood everywhere. It was fine. It didn't mean anything. And then afterwards, there was a real pivot to like, oh shit, you know, you see that spray, it really means something very different. And I think about the shift that had in culture, like a very medical emergency, and the way that was dealt with and the stigma associated. And like, what is that? How is that manifesting in this pandemic? You know, like, how is that manifesting in this space? What are the subtle shifts about the things that we're scared of gonna be? But, you know, where else do we find bravery?
Unless you're dying, you're not going to get into an ICU.
I don't know. It's very, it feels pivotal.
Are there any micro stories from this week that anybody would like to tell about, you know, doing things out of the blue that are different than 2 weeks prior?
Any funny shit happen on Zoom?
I've met a lot of kids and dogs. Every coworker's child and dog has shown up in my life.
Yes, I've seen everybody's children, even people that I didn't know had children. I saw, I got to see their children.
People who I thought were doing well enough to not have roommates, turns out I was wrong.
My favorite moment, though, was being in a meeting and I didn't see the child. She was not in the sight line of the camera, but my coworker was, you know, sitting, talking, having, like, saying something really interesting and important, whatever. And all of a sudden, there was a box on her head, like her child had just come and put a box over her
Oh, wow.
head. It was fantastic. I was like, whoa.
You said you're marvelous.
And then she came and stood in front of it so that she was then front and center in the camera. I was like, all right, I can see where this child is going.
That's beautiful. So I think this is pretty much the point in the night where if we were at Open Source on 17 in South Brooklyn, we would be like, hey, come down to Freddie's bar and we're gonna have a few bevies and maybe there's a funk band and there's also a weird frog that lives in the aquarium.
No, that's the thing I'm sorry that you all won't get to experience is
It's
that
okay,
really
though,
strange
just
fucked up frog.
Just imagine me naked. That's what the frog looks like.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
As
Andrew
my
says
hair
that's
gets
dead on.
blonder,
I
it
miss that
just
frog
gets
so much.
more froggy. It's a good
It's so
time.
distressing to me.
I
What
love
does that even
this
mean?
frog. I love this goddamn frog.
Guess
Like-
frog, yeah.
But this is the point of the night where we would say a huge thank you. And again, a round of applause to everybody who
Good night,
turned the fuck up.
everybody.
Everybody who spoke, thank you. To Monica for being the head of Open Source and to leading us on. To Terrence for starting this shit in the beginning.
You're
Woo!
welcome.
6 years
You're very
and
welcome.
strong. Yes. How many storytelling events lived for 6 years?
It was
I don't
250
know.
at the very
Maybe
beginning of the
just this
season.
was.
It's more now.
Oh, yeah, we're the 6th
stories.
season. Oh, we're passe now. Don't worry. It's okay. The next season, it's all cats. Don't worry.
No, the host of the cat.
All the guests are dogs. Yes.
Wow. Okay.
We have
We're
beverages
turning
on
the
the front
fuck
porch,
up
you guys.
because you're all excellent. And if you weren't here, it'd just be me and Stacie being like, no, you're beautiful. No, you're beautiful. Stop it. You're beautiful.
This is what all of our phone calls are like. This is what this is all we do.
Legitimately is. We schedule for an hour it's like an hour and a half because that extra 45 minutes, there's an extra 15 minutes in every call, but that extra 45 minutes is like, no, I just love her. It's great.
Who's that?
Hey, that's my little brother. Hey, Francis.
What?
Hi. What?
Mom's bumming like crazy.
What is mom doing?
Hang on. Give me a call on Facebook. Anyway, thank you so much.
And we'll
See you
be
in a
back
minute.
next week with Americana and more excellent stories. Thank you, everybody.
Wait.
This is great. Thank you so much. Can't wait for the next one.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
See you next month.
Bye.
Bye.